is going to be a complex topic. This topic, because of the month, it is everywhere. And you have really two sides to this topic. You have one side that really just wants us to go away. Motherfucker, we ain't going nowhere. And the second side is like, hey, happy pride to you. I'm not LGBTQIA, but I support y'all and love you. So there's two different sides. Rainbow capitalism, fake allies, real oppression. Why do I have a cop car, a rainbow colored cop car, and then you have Xfinity, Coca-Cola, Facebook, Urban Outfitters, Pfizer, ExxonMobil, YouTube? Why are they in rainbow colors? Tumblr. Why are they in rainbow colors? Well, because they're supposedly allies. I can hear it in your voice too. I can hear y'all speaking through the screen. And so I played this initial video from Sylvia Rivera, who talked about the existence of pride. Let's go back over it and let's break it down, because I think this is really interesting, because she really, harps on the points that pride isn't what pride used to be. So let's go again.
Can you introduce yourself?
My name is Sylvia Rivera. I'm co-founder of Street Transvestite Action Revolutionaries, which is now Street Transgender Action Revolutionaries. And my co-founder was Marsha P. Johnson.
What about?
So Marsha P. Johnson, if you don't know, was some argue that she identified as still male. Some argue that she was trans. From what it sounds like from Sylvia Rivera, she was trans. So I'm going to be referring to Marsha P. Johnson as she for the duration of my reference to her. They started the organization STAR. She was one of the people who were there at the Stonewall riots. Marsha P. Johnson, by her admission, got there a couple of hours after the Stonewall riot. I hate calling it Stonewall riots. I prefer to call it Stonewall Rebellion, because I feel like that, especially trans and, and non-binary folk, many of us were rebelling at that time in 1969. That riot/rebellion, they were there in 1969. And this is deeply important to keep in mind when it comes to the history of queer history. Because it's kind of a lot to say LGBTQIA or LGBTQ over and over. So queer history. And so this is why this is deeply important. And by the way, we're in Pride Month, as you guys know. So let's continue.
What about the issues of that? There's a lot of organizations that have included T in their bill, like lesbian, gay, bi, and trans. Is there real inclusiveness, or is it just a smokescreen?
So that's one of the reasons why I put in the thumbnail those corporations that have rainbow colors. And you can just Google it. You can look at all these different organizations and look, and they're all basically supposedly making themselves look like allies. And this is years ago. Sylvia goes, yeah, nah, we ain't playing that. And so I love her response to this. Let's go.
How do you feel about this?
No, that's the bottom line. It's a big smokescreen. This movement has become so capitalist. It is a capitalist movement.
It is a capitalist movement. Look, let's be real. Remember when Fred Hampton said, we will not we will not. I'm paraphrasing. We will not destroy capitalism with black capitalism. He said we won't fight capitalism with black capitalism. We'll fight it with socialism. The thing is that we will not fight and defeat capitalism with rainbow capitalism. And you have a lot of people who are a lot of opportunistic right-wingers that will show up in a Target. They always choose Target for some reason. They won't choose Walmart because they know a lot of right-wingers love Walmart. But they'll go into a Target, go into a section where they have a kids section, where there may be some stuff with rainbows on it. And then they'll be like, oh my God, they're showing this to the kids. And it's like, okay. Rainbows have been in kids' clothing for forever. Number one. Number two, so what? Why do I say that? Nobody flipped their wigs when you see a onesie with for boys made that say "the ladies love me." We don't see anybody flipping out over that. Nobody flips out over that. Right? Or how kids up until the age of toddler really don't have that much of a variation of size. So why are there smaller shorts and spaghetti straps for little girls and then longer shorts and longer sleeves on shirts for boys? They're relatively the same size. You can really put a little boy's outfit on a little girl and keep it moving. It doesn't really matter. But yet we have to, categorize, right? Little girls have to show off their bodies more instead of, why not just cover them all the same, right? Or pink is for girls, blue is for boys, when back then in the 1800s, babies wore white and pink was relatively a masculine color, whereas blue was a feminine color. But see how it changed? Oh my God, men wearing dresses. You never seen a man in a sarong before? You never seen those grass skirts that indigenous men in the island nations wear? About the sarongs that indigenous African men will wear traditionally? What about what indigenous Americans wore? So what? Ultimately, and I'm going to say this repeatedly, is that this outrage is really just a means to keep us divided as workers. That's what it is. And if you're committing or if you're participating in the outrage, you might just be doing the work of the corporate dictators. Because guess what? A trans woman like Sylvia Rivera has a lot of the same concerns that you, as a cis person, a cis straight person, has as well. Public safety, healthcare, being paid a living wage, housing. We worry about different people in other countries too. So are we going to allow ourselves to be pawns of the corporate dictators to go up against our fellow workers just because they either have a different gender identity or they love a different way? Are we? So people will say, oh, this is identity politics. Baby, this is class. It always goes down to class. It always does. And capitalists need us to be divided in order for them to keep and maintain that power. And they will use, oh my God, they're going after kids while look at what's going on in the churches. Look at what's going on in many of these different organizations that are hetero. Look at how many police officers. Ask any cis female, any woman about her experiences as soon as she hit puberty, maybe even before she hit puberty, how she was targeted by grown ass men, straight men. Go ahead, ask how they felt, especially when they hit puberty, like 11, 12 years old, being targeted, being talked to. So it's not really the concern about queer people. It's really a method of division. Because if they were talking about truly protecting kids, they'd be going after straight men, like crazy. Sorry, it's true. It's not that much different than people complaining about, oh my God, the immigrants are taking our jobs. When in reality, it wasn't immigrants that were taking their jobs. It was the corporate oligarchs sending our jobs overseas so that they can have cheaper, so they can make more profit, so they can have cheaper labor. Or the immigrants coming in and accepting cheap labor because they're constantly being exploited. Ultimately, it's a class divide. Let's continue.
I see this movement becoming a straight gay movement.
What does she mean by there? She basically means that it's really been co-opted. Just like Black Lives Matter was co-opted, right? Now you got a lot of these people going, love is love. And the thing is, like, while that's true, y'all don't actually mean it. And by y'all, I'm talking to the liberals. Liberals don't actually mean love is love. Liberals don't actually really care about us. Some do. A few do, especially ones that are not in the upper echelons of power. But the ones that are in the upper echelons of power, the Nancy Pelosi's, the Joe Bidens, the Hakeem Jeffries, blah, 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 blah. They don't actually care about LGBTQIA people. They don't care about us. If they actually did, then a lot of policies that would actually benefit us, defund the police would actually help us. Yes, it would. Housing for all, a housing first model would definitely help us. A living wage and actually making it so that people can actually own the means of production. Oh, you don't think that would help us? Oh, hell yeah, it would help us. What else? Healthcare for all would help us. It would, oh my God. I would love to be able to get my medications without cost. What about our siblings that have HIV? What about them being able to get their medications without having to worry about cost, without having to go bankrupt? It's a class issue. What about our trans brothers and sisters who want to get gender affirmation care? Do you know how many times I see somebody who's trans that has to put up a GoFundMe or crowdfund for their surgery? By the way, these surgeries are for people over 18. So they're not doing this shit to kids. Just do your research. Anyway, so yes, they actually have to crowdfund in order to get, gender affirmation surgery instead of places that actually do it for free. And by the way, anybody who says that gender reassignment surgeries are unnecessary, are you going to say the same thing for breast augmentation? Are you going to say the same thing for circumcision? Are you going to say that? I mean, and we're going to talk, gender affirmation. Hell, Viagra is gender affirmation, but you don't see nobody complain and moan about that. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. In fact, people who get these surgeries, majority of them, they actually report feeling alleviating their depression and feeling a lot better. So, and you know what, to be honest with you, I'd rather have somebody trans on to talk about that. But yeah. So yeah. And so I know a lot of people are going to be here and they're going to disagree. But yo, here's the thing. Fuck it. I'm showing it. Got to be careful with the thought process. This is also from the National Institute of Health. Says the Pink Triangle, the persecution of homosexual males in concentration camps in Nazi Germany. We gotta look, y'all gotta be careful, man. Y'all gotta be careful. Says abstract, having analyzed the fragmentary records of Nazi concentration camps, the author reports on the number and treatment of male homosexual prisoners. The total number of inmates officially defined as homosexual is estimated about 10,000, although the number incarcerated varied greatly from camp to camp as the war progressed. Pink Triangle prisoners had low social status, often were isolated from other inmates, and as compared to other political prisoners and Jehovah's Witnesses, more frequently were given to the most difficult work assignments and less frequently were assigned to light duties. By the way, I used to be a Jehovah's Witness. Guess what? If I would have been in Nazi Germany, I would have been dead. Because gay and JW, yeah. They had a higher death rate and a lower survival rate upon release. Suicide rates were not significantly different from those than other inmate groups studied. Pink Triangle prisoners were not subject to exceptionally cruel treatment in all camps and at all times, however, and were not the only group of prisoners subject to extreme abuse. And so we were identified. So if we as gays were identified, then transgender people were definitely identified too. So we can take a look and be like, you know, this is wrong. But the thing is like, why do you think it's wrong? Like, have you actually talked to actual people who are, you know, physicians in this field? I don't even want to get into this part of the subject, but I'm seeing people in the chat. Meteor Dream says, JB, see what I mean? As the left has gone far right. Like I said, I think there's just a lot of loud people, but they're not the majority of the left. I don't believe that. Maybe it's just the optimism in me, but I don't believe that. I think it's just a lot of loud people. Tanky, what about preventative mastectomies? Are they unnecessary? Well,